The secret to surviving your own success isn't hustling harder. It's actually about knowing how to relax, dropping your ego, and just letting go of the small stuff when you're on the way up.
Right.
And before we uncover exactly how to pull that off, a really quick update for everyone. The companion app, YOWAYOW, is officially available to download right now on the Apple App Store.
Which is super exciting.
It really is. Plus, the book we are using to guide today's conversation, like the core text, it's called The Mind Key to the I Ching, is officially up on Amazon Books too.
Yeah. Highly recommend grabbing a copy if you're following along.
Definitely. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is decoding some incredible ancient wisdom from the I Ching and, translating it into our very modern, very chaotic lives.
Because it definitely applies.
Oh, 100%. We're looking specifically at the hexagram known as Jin, which translates to progress, rising, or stepping into the light.
Yeah. And to truly grasp what Jin means, we really have to look at its visual structure.
Right, because the I Ching is built on those visual symbols, right? The stacked lines.
Exactly. It's built on these visual symbols made of stacked lines. And this one is composed of two distinct parts. On top, you have the symbol for fire,
Ooh.
which represents the sun, shining brightly, illuminating everything.
Yeah.
And on the bottom, you have the symbol for earth.
So fire over earth.
Right. And the earth symbol is yielding, grounded, and open. So it paints this very specific picture of success. You're not, you don't need to hack your way through a dense jungle with a machete.
I love that imagery.
Right. The path is just this flat, open field, and it's already completely lit up for you. You just need to walk steadily forward.
Like the friction is removed.
Completely. So this hexagram explores how you handle yourself when you hit a lucky break. When you get that promotion or when your business suddenly takes off. It's asking, how do you steadily catch that good fortune without fumbling it?
Because usually when we think of, rising to the top, we picture this hyper-aggressive behavior.
Oh, absolutely. Hustle culture.
Exactly. We've imagined crushing the competition and, stepping over people. But before we break down the specific stages of success, we really need to understand the baseline mentality required to keep this upward momentum going.
It requires a total paradigm shift.
Right, because if the path is already lit, but our instinct is still to fight, how do we rewire our mindset to avoid self-sabotage?
Well, the philosophy introduces three overarching principles, or mind keys, for this specific type of upward journey.
Okay, let's hear them.
So the first is prioritizing groundedness over prickliness.
Groundedness over prickliness.
Yeah. The text describes a soft, yielding foundation as the perfect vessel to hold good fortune. Like you earn trust and frequent recognition by being reliable and agreeable, not by being combative.
Makes sense.
And the second key is showing your cards. Think about the visual again. The sun is out.
Right, so you can't hide anything anyway.
Exactly. When the sun is shining brightly, nothing can hide in the shadows. Transparency becomes your absolute best strategy. And the third key is dropping the calculator.
Okay, wait, I want to pause on that first key for a second, because this completely flips the usual corporate advice on its head.
It really does.
It reminds me of the difference between, climbing a crowded ladder and riding an escalator.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because when you're on a ladder, every rung is a fight. You learn to throw elbows and kind of kick down at the people below you just to secure your footing.
Yeah, that aggression is a survival mechanism.
Exactly, it's survival. But if Jin represents an escalator, meaning the environment itself is already lifting you up and you keep kicking and throwing elbows, you aren't helping yourself rise any faster.
You're just doing damage.
Yeah, you're just going to break the machine that's carrying you, and you're going to alienate everyone riding up right next to you.
That captures the underlying mechanism perfectly. The environment dictates the strategy,
Right.
If you are in a period of natural growth, bringing a wartime defensive mentality into a peacetime expansion, it just creates unnecessary friction, which actually ties directly into the third key I mentioned,
Right.
dropping the calculator.
Right, tracking the pennies.
Yeah. When the road ahead of you is wide open and brightly lit, if you are constantly staring down at your feet to count every single penny or track every minor slight, you are going to trip.
You lose sight of where you're going.
Exactly. Your gaze needs to be fixed on the horizon.
It is so incredibly hard to drop the calculator, though. If you're listening to this on your commute or at your desk right now, just think about how much energy you spend mentally tracking who owes you a favor.
Oh, yeah. The mental scorecard.
Or which colleague got a slightly bigger bonus. We are hardwired to track fairness.
We really are.
But let's trace how this actually plays out in real life. because the hexagram is made of 6 lines, starting from the bottom and moving up.
Right.
And the bottom 3 lines make up the earth phase, which represents those internal, often really vulnerable beginnings of a new endeavor.
Yeah. We begin with what we can call the glass heart stage. This is the very first step of your upward journey. And ironically, it almost always starts with rejection.
Or just a lack of trust. Right.
Exactly. You want to advance, but you get pushed back by the establishment. And the ancient text advises that in this specific moment, you must stay on the right path and keep a broad, relaxed mind.
So basically, chill out.
Basically, do not get angry. Do not try to force your way through.
Okay, let's put a modern slice of life spin on this so we can see the mechanics in action.
I love that.
Imagine you are in a corporate boardroom, you are a new junior executive, and you pitch this brilliant, highly innovative campaign.
You're so proud of it.
You're thrilled, and you are met with absolute crickets.
Ouch.
Or worse, passive-aggressive pushback from the senior team. They just don't trust you yet.
Right.
So the natural instinct is to get deeply, deeply defensive. You want to go back to your desk and send a frantic 3-page follow-up email defending your idea.
Explaining why they're wrong.
Exactly. Or you go complain to your coworkers in the break room about how nobody gets your vision.
Which is the exact prickliness the first Mind-Key warns against. Doing that would be disastrous for your longevity at that company.
Because you are acting like you're on the ladder, you're fighting for a rung, when you should be building the escalator.
Exactly.
The I Ching suggests you just breathe. You accept the temporary cold shoulder and you just keep doing your daily work.
Right, because you don't have the political capital or the trust yet to force the issue. So you have to conserve your energy.
That makes total sense.
The psychology here is really about emotional endurance. If you throw a tantrum every time you face early resistance, you drain the exact cognitive energy you need to actually refine your work.
You exhaust yourself.
Completely. By maintaining a relaxed, unbothered posture, you survive that initial friction without making any permanent enemies. You allow time for trust to naturally build.
So if keeping your head down and doing the work eventually earns you a bit of traction, I imagine the temptation is to suddenly puff your chest out.
Oh, of course.
Right. Once you get past that initial rejection, the human ego usually wants to overcompensate. You want to prove all those early doubters wrong with this extreme, flashy confidence.
You would think so. But the second stage of the Earth phase introduces a completely counterintuitive concept.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As you start to advance, the text paints a picture of someone who is moving upward, but is filled with sorrow, anxiety, or worry.
Wait, sorrow and anxiety.
It's the classic imposter syndrome phase.
Ah, okay.
However, the text reveals that because this person feels anxious, they stick strictly to the rules and remain overly cautious. And that specific behavior actually ends up attracting massive support and blessings from generous higher-ups.
Wait. So being terrified and second-guessing yourself isn't a weakness you're supposed to overcome. It's actually a strategic advantage here.
It acts as a necessary safeguard.
Wow.
I mean, we're constantly told to fake it till we make it, right? To project absolute, unwavering certainty at all times.
Especially in business.
Exactly. But the text suggests that when you are rising quickly, a healthy dose of anxiety prevents arrogance. It keeps you grounded in reality.
That is so interesting.
It makes you double-check your work, seek out mentorship, and deeply respect the boundaries of your environment.
You know, if you look at the startup world, you see the mechanic of this play out all the time.
Oh, totally.
Imagine a tech startup seeking Series B funding. You have one founder who is just this reckless, arrogant visionary. They promise the moon, they ignore financial regulations, and they act like they are completely invincible.
We've all seen that guy.
We have. And then you have another founder who is visibly cautious. They are a bit worried about market volatility. They deeply respect the financial guardrails, and they are meticulously following compliance rules because they are just terrified of failing.
And guess what? The conservative institutional investors are almost always going to trust the cautious founder with their millions.
Right, because they want their money to be safe.
Exactly. The reckless visionary might get the magazine covers, but the cautious manager secures the actual funding.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Their apprehension proves to the investors that they understand the very real risks involved. In a way, their imposter syndrome is proof of their sanity, that humility attracts protective support from above.
That makes me think about how an anxious, cautious person interacts with the larger group, too. Like, if you are second-guessing yourself, you probably aren't going to try and dominate the room. You're going to look for allies.
Which brings us perfectly to the top of the Earth phase, the third stage.
Okay.
This is where you rely on the power of the crowd. The text simply says, All agree, regret vanishes.
All agree, regret vanishes.
Yeah. You stop trying to forge your own solitary path, and instead you embrace consensus.
Oh, this is the absolute ultimate antidote to main character syndrome.
Yes.
You see this destructive behavior in meetings constantly. A corporate team is finally aligning on a really solid functional strategy. The momentum is good. Everyone's nodding. Right. There's always that one person who desperately wants to be the star. They can't just agree and let the meeting end gracefully.
They have to stir the pot.
Exactly. They have to play the lone wolf and pitch some wild, risky alternative strategy just to get their name on the whiteboard. Their ego demands that they get individual credit, even if it completely jeopardizes the group's progress.
And by doing so, they introduce friction into a situation that was already moving in a positive direction.
They're kicking on the escalator.
They are kicking on the escalator.
The wisdom here is just so liberating. You really don't need to be the hero every single time. If the crowd is moving in a good direction, just nod.
Yeah, exactly.
Safely ride the wave upward with everyone else. You don't have to carry the entire project on your back to benefit from its eventual success.
And by being agreeable, cautious, and willing to blend in with the crowd, we build a completely solid foundation. But this is where the environment shifts drastically.
We're moving up.
Yeah, we now cross the threshold into the top half of the hexagram. We enter the fire phase.
So we are out of the messy, vulnerable beginnings. The sun is up. The spotlight is literally on.
You have officially broken into the big leagues. You are highly visible. And the fourth stage introduces a very vivid, almost shocking warning.
Okay.
It describes someone advancing like a giant rat.
Calling someone a giant rat is pretty aggressive imagery for an ancient philosophical text. What is the mechanism behind that?
I know, it sounds harsh, but the metaphor is incredibly precise. Think about how a rat survives.
Right, scurrying around.
Yeah, it scurries in the dark, it hoards little crumbs, it operates in total secrecy because it is constantly under threat.
Okay, I see where this is going.
The text is warning us about the psychological danger of carrying over the petty, secretive survival tactics from your struggling days into your new, elevated position.
Because now you're in the sun.
You are in the blazing sunlight now. Everything is illuminated. If you apply rat tactics in the sun, you don't look clever. You just make yourself an obvious, grotesque target.
This psychological mismatch happens all the time in modern business.
Oh, constantly.
Think about like a massive tech unicorn that just had its IPO. They went public. The founders are literal millionaires overnight, and the company has essentially unlimited resources.
Right, total abundance.
The sun is shining at its absolute brightest, but the CEO, mentally, they are still trapped in the garage where they started.
Yeah.
Because they haven't updated their mindset, they are secretly nickel and diming their junior employees on travel expenses. They are arguing with vendors over $20 coffee receipts.
It's so cringe to watch.
It is. Or worse, they are quietly stealing credit for ideas that their unpaid interns came up with, just to stroke their own ego.
And because they are operating in the spotlight, the optics of that scarcity mindset are just devastating.
The market sees it, the employees see it, the public sees it.
Everyone sees it.
The massive discrepancy between their public success and their petty, secretive greed makes them look incredibly small and untrustworthy.
Absolutely.
It destroys their reputation far faster than a bad quarter of sales would, simply because they couldn't adapt their psychology to an environment of abundance.
And that inability to let go of the crumb-hoarding mentality leads directly into the fifth stage.
Okay.
Which really serves as the emotional climax of this entire hexagram. It offers the antidote to the rat mentality. The text gives a profound instruction. It says, do not worry about loss or gain.
Okay, I have to push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
Because do not worry about loss or gain sounds lovely in theory, very zen.
Sure.
But we live in a capitalist, data-driven world. We have key performance indicators, we have quarterly earnings, we have return on investment. If you run a department or a company, how do you just stop tracking your wins and losses without running your business straight into the ground?
It's a very natural reaction to hear that phrase and think it means financial negligence, you know?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
But the I Ching isn't telling you to, like, throw away your accounting software or stop looking at your bank account. It's talking about psychological liberation.
Psychological liberation.
Psychological liberation. Right. It's about shifting your gaze from the micro to the macro. When you reach a high level of success, The emotional bandwidth required to obsess over every tiny victory or every minor setback will literally paralyze you.
Oh, wow.
You have to clear out the mental ledger of grievances and petty scorekeeping.
So it's about reallocating your cognitive load. The mental energy you spend tracking whether a client slighted you or if you overpaid by a few dollars is energy you aren't spending on the horizon.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper into how you strategize. If we look at this through a business lens, ignoring minor loss and gain means being willing to take a calculated financial hit on a single contract because you know it secures long-term market dominance.
Right.
It means giving your partners a much better deal than you technically have to,
Yeah.
because you are no longer playing a zero-sum game of pennies.
Because you don't need to anymore.
Right. You are actively building a reputation for being an incredible, generous partner.
You stop counting the pennies so you can actually build the empire.
Precisely.
But that requires supreme confidence. By letting go of the emotional baggage attached to minor losses, you achieve this state of open-mindedness where petty things simply cannot disturb your peace.
And as the text notes for this stage, when you operate with that level of detachment, nothing is unfavorable. You move freely and expansively.
Okay, so we've dropped our ego, we've survived the spotlight, and we've stopped counting pennies.
We're doing great.
But logically, nothing expands to infinity.
Right.
Every rise eventually hits a physical limit. What happens when we reach the absolute top of the hexagram?
The sixth and final stage represents that hard limit. The imagery shifts once more. The text says you have advanced as far as the horns.
The horns of a ram.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about the anatomical location of horns. They sit at the very top, the absolute extreme edge of the animal.
And they're hard.
They are hard, unyielding bone. When you reach this stage, you have hit the ceiling of your current environment. You can no longer push outward. There is literally no more territory to conquer in this specific direction.
The momentum trap here must be intense, because if you've spent years successfully pushing outward and growing, your entire identity is wrapped up in expansion.
Absolutely.
So when you hit that ceiling, what is the instruction?
The I Ching gives a very specific and honestly somewhat severe directive. It says that since you can no longer advance outward, you must take all of that aggressive pushing energy and turn it inward.
Turn it inward.
Yeah, the ancient phrasing translates to punish one's own city.
Punish one's own city. I mean, that sounds incredibly violent for a philosophy that just told us to be soft and agreeable.
It uses severe language because the process it describes is inherently painful. It's a metaphor for rigorous internal auditing and cleaning house. It's about tearing down the rot that accumulated while you were so distracted by growth.
Let's bring this into a modern corporate scenario to see why it feels like a punishment.
Good idea.
Imagine a highly mature company. They have completely saturated their market. Everyone in the world who is going to buy their core product has already bought it.
They're at the horns.
They have reached the horns. Now, the immature response, driven by that momentum trap we mentioned, would be to keep blindly pushing outward.
Force the growth.
Right. They might launch doomed, desperate marketing stunts, trying to force growth where there is no space left, burning through massive amounts of cash just to pretend they are still in that exciting rising phase.
Which would inevitably lead to structural collapse.
Completely. But the wise response, turning inward to punish their own city, looks very different. The CEO stops looking outward at new markets and finally turns around to look at the mess they made internally while they were growing so fast.
The technical debt, the bad hires.
Exactly. They finally fire those toxic middle managers they've been ignoring for years simply because profits were high.
Right.
They undergo the agony of streamlining their messy, outdated software architecture. They restructure teams and fix their broken internal culture.
And, firing people, restructuring, admitting internal flaws, it feels like a punishment to the organization. It disrupts the peace.
It is agonizing. But by doing that painful internal work, they secure the massive foundation they've spent years building.
Exactly.
They fortify their castle so it can actually stand the test of time rather than letting it collapse under its own unmanaged, bloated weight.
That is the ultimate wisdom of the final stage. You must cultivate the self-awareness to recognize when the era of outward expansion is permanently over and the era of internal consolidation must begin.
Wow. Let's synthesize everything we've unpacked today.
Mhm.
We started by saying that the secret to surviving your own success isn't just about grinding harder. It's a very specific psychological progression.
It really is an evolution.
It starts down in the earth. You survive the messy beginnings by having a thick skin when you face early rejection, and a quiet, cautious ego when you feel out of your depth.
You nod and ride the consensus instead of demanding to be the main character.
Right. And then when you cross the threshold into the sunlight, you abandon the survival tactics of the dark. You don't act like a rat hoarding crumbs.
You drop the petty mental ledger.
Exactly. You stop obsessing over every tiny win and loss so you can actually enjoy the warmth of the sun and focus your vision on the horizon.
And finally, when you hit the absolute ceiling, the horns, you have the maturity to stop pushing blindly forward.
Yeah.
You turn your energy inward and undergo the painful process of cleaning up your own house.
You know, we spend so much time in our modern culture obsessing over how to bounce back from failure.
Oh, constantly.
There are thousands of books and seminars on resilience and getting back up when you're knocked down. But what Jin shows us is that how you handle success, how you handle a promotion, and how you navigate the spotlight, that is just as critical to your long-term survival.
If not more so.
Truly. If you don't know how to yield and adapt when you are winning, your own success will eventually crush you.
It is ultimately about building a character structure that is resilient enough to hold immense good fortune without being corrupted or destroyed by it.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your week. We've spent this entire time talking about the sun rising.
Right.
We've explored how to walk steadily in the light, how to be transparent, and how to drop our petty scorecards when everything around us is visible, warm, and expanding. The environment has been fundamentally supportive, lifting us up like that escalator.
But the earth keeps turning.
It does. The sun does not stay at its peak forever.
Yeah.
Eventually, the light fades, the warmth dissipates. What happens when the sun inevitably sets and you are plunged into an environment of darkness?
A completely different scenario.
Completely. What do you do when the world is no longer supporting your rise but becomes actively hostile to your inner light? How do you protect yourself then? Well, that is a question for another deep dive. Thank you for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next one.